Yes, and I'm audible, right, sir?
Yes, yes, everyone is quite
Oh,
clearly audible, and we are live.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah.
okay, then let's begin with today's session. So, hello and welcome everyone to another technical lecture series, new lecture part of this series. Today we have a very interesting talk which is titled "Building a Bootstrap AI Micro SaaS in the Generative AI Era with No Employees." And we are fortunate to have with us Ramsri Goutham sir, who is a founder of two such startups along with his other ventures. So a little background about Sir. He's an AI researcher and a product builder, and two of his companies are Questgen.ai and Supermeme.ai. Questgen.ai is an edtech startup that generates school quizzes such as MCQs from any text using AI. Supermeme is a meme marketing tool that allows individuals and brands to generate original memes with AI. With over 10 years of work and startup experience across the US, Singapore, and India, Sir is passionate about applying cutting edge AI research to practical, real world uses. Additionally, he is also an avid content creator who has built an audience of over 60K across various social media platforms. So, without any further ado, I'd like to hand over the session to Ramsri, sir.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining in for the talk. It's my pleasure to be here. And thanks to Assam AI Institute for organizing this talk and inviting me to it. Very glad to be presenting and sharing my thoughts. So the talk will be in this format where for the first half an hour to 45 minutes, I'll go through some slides where I share my learnings from building two AI SaaS apps in the last 2-3 years. And then we can have a Q&A session, and we can go through any questions that you may have, etc. Awesome. Are we ready to get started?
Yes, sir. I think we're ready.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, as it was mentioned, that title of this talk is Building a Bootstrapped AI SaaS in the Generative AI Era with No Employees. If you're here for the first time and do not know these terms, don't worry, I'm going to demystify them as well. Let's get started. And before officially starting, why should you listen to this talk? So, just a quick introduction about me. I'm Ramsri, currently based out of Hyderabad, India, and I'm a fractional builder of two AI SaaS products, Questgen.ai and Supermeme.ai. Both are at a combined annual recurring revenue ARR of 100K USD, that translates to 83 lakhs INR. And I also teach courses on NLP on Udemy and LearnNLP.academy. And also, I'm a fractional developer advocate at segment.com. It's the home to blazing fast image generation APIs. For those of you who are wondering what is this fractional thing that Ramsri is talking about, it simply means that we are in a new world where you can just do part-time work on several things, and that's what I'm trying to explore. Whether I'm successful or not, I think time will tell. But in short, I am part-time on Questgen.ai, Supermeme.ai. Questgen.ai, I'm building it completely solo, everything from idea to marketing, everything. And Supermeme, I'm doing with two other co-founders. And apart from this, uh, you know I teach courses, and also for segment.com, I have a part-time role, fractional role again, where I talk about the features that are coming up for segment.com, and do quite a lot of things. Either it is helping customers build on top of the image generation APIs, etc. So fractional simply means part-time roles in all these things. It's a new, I would say, adventure for me in the last 1-2 years. I did not set out to do it this way, but This is what I got to uh, enjoy and build as time progressed, and this is where I am. Without further ado, let's get started in today's title: building a bootstrapped AI micro SaaS in the generative AI era with no employees. First of all, what is bootstrapped? So if you do not take any external investment and purely self fund your startup or app idea, that's what bootstrapping is, as opposed to VC funding, companies like Zepto, etc., where there is need as well as scale that is necessary to take venture funding, etc. Instead of choosing that path, choosing a different path where you or a small team can build completely without any external investment a startup idea starting from scratch. That is essentially what bootstrap means. And AI micro SaaS, of course, AI means artificial intelligence, and micro SaaS means there are a lot of software companies out there which have anywhere between 10 to 100, 5,000, 10,000 employees. But micro SaaS simply means you and a small team, that could be just two or three other people, co-founders, where you are working on a idea in a niche market, and it is operated by you and the small team. So that is what micro SaaS is, where there are not a lot of employees, not a lot of operations that need to be taken care of. And when I mean generative AI, in the last 2 3 years, of course, with chat gpt and all these, we have seen uh, AI that can generate and simulate human creativity. What that simply means is write as good as humans, or generate as images or art as good as humans, or do text to speech as good as humans, generate music as good as humans. So simply, generative AI, how I would term it is, now we are using AI to compete with human creativity in terms of generation tasks that humans do. And of course, you would have seen notable startups. OpenAI has ChatGPT, which is text generation generative AI. Then you have Mid Journey, Stable Diffusion, which generates images. Then companies like 11 Labs that generate even human speech, almost even cloning your own voice, etc. And the last one, why no employees? I'm not against to running companies with employees. I do completely respect that. Just that there is this possibility where you, as a solopreneur or a small team, can actually build these things at this point of time with the technology that we have in hand, where you can purely optimize for freedom, a lifestyle that is optimized for freedom, because maintaining employees and taking care of them, all these things do come with additional responsibilities. And I have utmost respect for people who are building, creating employment and all these things. Just that there, I just wanted to let you know that there is this path where you as an individual or small team can choose to operate in this area in a particular niche. That's what I'm aiming to say. And let's go ahead with the talk. First of all, how do you find an idea? What is an AI SaaS idea? If you go to any traditional startup advice, you get all this advice like technology doesn't matter, find a user problem and solve it. That is perfectly fine. But especially when you're coming to AI SaaS, and when you're trying to build your startup as a solopreneur or a small, or with a small team, my biggest advice is you need to choose ideas that are already being paid for, but they are paid currently because it's done manually. So as I mentioned here, try to see what are some manual tasks that are currently paid for, which could be completely enhanced, revamped with a new setup with AI, or just substituted. kind of replaced or provided with more features with existing or imminent state of the art generative AI. Why I mentioned existing or imminent is because um, one thing is that current AI could do it, or the current AI that will evolve in the next 2-3 years should be able to do it. That's what I mean when I use the word imminent. So basically, what are the manual tasks that are currently being done and paid for, which AI could enhance or substitute in the current state of the art form, or how it is evolving in the next 2-3 years? That's the biggest thing that you need to look, because as a solopreneur or a small or working with a small team, your goal is to not create a consumer behavior. Your goal is not to create a new consumer behavior that they pay for. You need to tap into existing consumer behavior which is already being paid for. Now you just need to infuse your AI element onto it, because that's the best way to effortlessly or with minimal risk you can start an AI SaaS. Now, just like a rocket, if you have boosters attached to it, you can go far and faster. So the booster is basically, booster one is, are you solving your own problem where you are your own first customer? I'll give you an example. So when OpenAI's Whisper speech to text model came out, I was subtitling my own course videos and I didn't find anything good. And then I got to know that OpenAI released Whisper speech to text model that is state of the art. So there, for supertranslate.ai, that is one of the startup that I'm not currently associated with, but I took it from idea to profitability. There I was solving my own problem because the goal was to subtitle my own course videos where I'm speaking with a heavy Indian accent and technical terminology. So nothing worked best, anything that is out there in the world other than OpenAI's Whisper. So we built on top of it. There I was the first customer of my startup. It is not necessary, but if you are there, that is the best position to be. Then booster 2 is, you have existing domain expertise so that you can easily identify the customer who will pay for this, as well as finalize the first set of features to build. And apart from the main thing that converting manual tasks, enhancing them or substituting them with AI, if you have these additional boosters which is solving your own problem, or you have domain expertise, when I mean you have domain expertise, it need not necessarily be you, but people around you or the closest to you. For example, if your father or mother runs a school, then you have direct domain expertise access to edtech, where there are children and schools that you can test. So that's also one of the booster where you can tap into existing domain expertise that is directly with you, or direct indirect access with you or someone who is closest to you. That's what I mean. And I'll quickly say how Questgen.ai, which is generating quizzes from text, let's see how it fits into this criteria. Because you can think about any startup idea and see if it fits into this framework. So for example, what are some manual tasks? Let's see what are I would say Question was an idea that got initiated somewhere in 2019 or 2020, almost 3 or 4 years back. And we tried to see what are the possibilities for this idea to take off. So I took this framework. What are currently manual tasks? For example, as I talked to few friends as well as some tutoring chains, etc., I realized that quiz creation is a manual task. Of course, teachers or question authors, they read some content and generate quizzes like multiple choice questions, true or false, etc. So it is done manually, let's say at the point of time in 2020 or 2019, etc. And also even big companies like publishers like McGraw-Hill, Pearson, they were outsourcing this question creation task. So quiz creation is a manual task. And is it currently paid for? When I mean currently in 2019, 2020, again talking to few other people and doing my own online research, I realized that big publishers outsource this question creation process to some other companies called as item bank companies. That means McGraw-Hill or Pearson will tie up with companies that are sitting on other side of the world, and they give some basic formatting and quality checks, etc., to create these quizzes from content. So it's currently paid for. And also I had a few friends who are working in as tutors, and I realized that tutoring chains also hire staff to create new quizzes yearly, because otherwise the content becomes stale and quizzes become repetitive. So every year there is a recurring usage and recurring need to create new quizzes, and that could be enhanced or substituted. Now you have this idea, how can you create a tool that will create these quizzes? That was the idea that I started with, and Question was born out of that, where currently Question can take in a textbook content as a PDF or just Word document, even 300 pages long, and in one click it can create up to 100 or 150 quizzes like multiple choice questions, true or false. Now the biggest thing is that it can act as an authoring tool, where now teachers, instead of spending 2-3 hours reading the content and creating quizzes, they can directly upload the material, get quizzes in 1 minute, under 1 minute, and they can just review and export now. So it saves them huge amount of time. And existing or imminent state of the art generative AI, this is a very very crucial and important line to understand, because when I started in 2020, this was kind of possible, where you can generate quizzes from text, but it was hard because you had to create custom quiz datasets. Then you had to train your own transformer models, AI models like T5, etc. Then you need to host those models. But I had a rough idea that if you can do it now in a hard way, it will only be easier in 2-3 years once the AI revolution progresses. And so in 2020, I used to host my own model, spend $500, etc., hosting T5 models trained. But in 2024, I just use OpenAI or Anthropic's API, where GPT-4, GPT 3.5 are readily available. I pass in text and generate quizzes. So existing in 2020 meant T5 transformer models that you need to train. Imminent meant thinking about GPT-3 or GPT-4 coming up, that will enhance this in next 2-3 years, that is right now in 2024. Now, there's another big thought about what's the tech stack to build your first idea once you narrow down onto the idea. I'll give you point blank answers, because the main thing is that instead of saying diplomatic things, if I just give you point blank answers, you can go and just try that. And my point blank answer to you is, if you have any programming knowledge, it doesn't necessarily have to be in JavaScript or web technologies. Even if you're a Python developer, I would strongly encourage you to learn web development frameworks, Next.js, and learn backend, Superbase, and build on top of it. Why? Because in 2024, you don't need to know the syntax, you just need to know the logic, you just need to know the tools to test that logic and iterate. What that simply means is that I have never officially done web development, that is, building these complex websites with backends in Node.js or JavaScript, etc., up until the last 6 months. But if you see current questions code, which has about maybe 50,000 or 100,000 lines, out of which maybe I hardly wrote 100 lines of code. Everything else is templates that are given by ChatGPT when I ask it, or excuse me, or tools like cursor.so, where now you can have an ID like Visual Studio. Just like Visual Studio, you can have cursor.so, and within that you can ask it to create a snippet that does this, etc. What that simply means is that today, even if it takes a little bit of time, try to spend 2 or 3 months learning this progression: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and Next.js. Although it looks like a lot of tools, in 1 week you can get a good hang of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React and Next.js probably you take 1 month. Now the thing is that you don't need to know it in depth. With tools like ChatGPT and Cursor, you just know on a high level. You ask it, it gives you a snippet, you try that snippet. If that works, you push it to production. Like I mentioned, out of 50,000 lines, I probably wrote less than 100 lines of actual code. Everything else is snippets given by these tools. So in 2024, no matter whether you come from Python or Java, any experience, I would say go and spend 1 or 2 months and build it with JavaScript framework, that is Next.js and Superbase, uh, because it is very very easy with ChatGPT and tools like Cursor to do it today without really knowing ins and out of everything. And for landing pages, etc., you can use no code builders. When I mean landing page, the informative page of what the app does, etc., other than the main app. So my best stack suggestion is Next.js, Superbase. Next.js is the framework, the full stack framework. Superbase is the backend, that is the database, Postgres database, and deploy it on Vercel. Now if you're not a programmer, I would say still in 1 to 2 years, you need to migrate to this to be able to do your best. But in the interim, you can start with no code tools. So use no code front end tools like vweb.io, again with Superbase backend. If you really want to go full no code stack, use bubble.io. Because when I started 1.5 year, 2 years ago, I started with bubble.io. And this year I migrated to Next.js stack. And again, it sounds ridiculous to remind, but again, I'm reminding you, start with this stack, because with the tools that are existing today, you don't need to know anything too deep to get started. You can instruct, get some code snippet, and get going. Okay, now you have your MVP ready. How to launch it, how to market it, what are the growth strategies? Again, I'm giving you point blank answer of how to go about it. First, launch it on social media. No matter whether you have 100 followers, 1,000 followers, 10,000, doesn't matter. Go on LinkedIn and Twitter and just talk about this idea that you're building. Now, when you're talking about that idea, if you have an MVP, that is the minimum first version built, you can put a demo of that. Or if you're just ideating, you can share that idea in public and take some feedback or reach out to appropriate potential customers. That's one. So first, launch it on social media. Now the thing is that if your idea is novel enough and is being built on top of existing state of the art AI, sometimes the idea itself has the virality potential. In such cases, it doesn't matter if even if you have 100 followers, it will just take off and get 1,000 2,000 likes on Twitter or LinkedIn, and you get enough traffic and enough people to take feedback from. That's step one, launching on social media. Step two is launching on platforms like Product Hunt, Reddit, and Hacker News. Reddit and Hacker News, you just need to post in the appropriate channels, but I can, it's kind of dicey whether it can take off or not, you don't know, but there's no harm in trying. And Product Hunt, why I kept it after social media launch is that when your product is on Product Hunt, there is a minimum level of minimum level of quality that is expected from the audience once they check out. So that's why, to give more room for error, just launch on socials where friends and family and the people who know you will give some unfiltered feedback. You can work on that, then launch on Product Hunt and see where it goes. Again, like I mentioned, sometimes the ideas itself have that virality potential and it could really take off from there. One such example for me is Supermeme.ai. We absolutely, it was my first Product Hunt launch. We got number one on Product Hunt, AI meme generator, super meme. And we almost have 500,000 plus signups, almost 600,000 signups, with absolutely zero marketing spend in the last 2 years since launch. So it has that virality effect. And at the same time, Question didn't take off, or I never launched it on Product Hunt until 1.5 year. So Question took a different path, which is SEO or long-term strategy. But I'm just saying you, if the ideas have potential, it it can take off with platforms like this. Third is marketing co-founders. If you're a solopreneur building and if you're confident enough and are okay with slow growth, perfect. But if you want to find co-founders who can propel the growth, then partner with people who have relevant target audience and authority in the domain. The best example is I partnered with Sanjeev, who is co-founder for Supermeme.ai. He is known for viral memes on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter. He has memes that have 1,000 plus likes and shares. So it's natural for me and ideal for me that he will do the heavy lifting for marketing, since he is a memer. He can give feedback and all those things. So that's how our partnership evolved in Super Meme, AI meme generator. And the fourth is outreach, basically doing Twitter DMs or LinkedIn DMs or even cold emails. What cold emails means is that you don't know that person before, but you find the email from sources. There are even tools that can give you emails of a person from LinkedIn URL or Twitter URL, etc. You find their emails and you reach out to them without any warm contact. That's what cold emails means. And you can also listen actively to some keywords and mention your product on social media, either as comments or responses. Simply means if anyone is trying to, let's say, subtitle their videos. If I have launched an AI subtitle um, app, I just search subtitle videos on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and if anyone is looking for that, I just respond in comments about my startup. That's what it means. And the fifth strategy is SEO or long-term strategy. Basically, generate good content. When I mean content, anything that lives on the internet, blogs, videos, your main website. Um, Write content about your app or associated things where your app could be plugged into, and so that you can organically show up on Google search, etc., whenever people are searching. Now, this is a long term strategy, because if you write a great article today, it's not going to go viral and get in front of people tomorrow. It might take 3 months, 6 months, etc. So this is more of a long term strategy. But one of the most prominent strategies to acquire targeted users, because for Question and Supermeme, we absolutely, in the last 3 months, probably absolutely zero marketing spend. Every user that came is through either our social media posts or mostly even 99% through just Google. I'll show you, if you just search AI meme generator or AI question generator, how our SEO plays, and we get shown on the top page, almost in the top 3 rankings. That's how users find us. But for bootstrappers and small teams where you have no external funding, 5 is your savior SEO, basically. Yeah. And the other thing is paid marketing. um, Once you have enough revenue, you can run text ads like Google ads, or video ads, whether it is on Instagram or YouTube, standard digital marketing ads. And also you can sponsor any newsletters that are in your domain. For example, if there is an edtech newsletter, I just sponsor that edtech newsletter and maybe give $500 or $1,000 for them to feature question, etc. That's one way. And the other way is influencer marketing. Basically, you find influencers in your area or domain of operations, and you pay them to talk about your product on whatever channel they are on, be it Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can do one time or affiliate pay. Affiliate pay simply means you share a percentage of revenue every month, because they came through your the audience or paying subscribers came through the influencers coupon code or something like that. I'm not a big fan of that strategy because it eats into revenues every month, but these are all the strategies that you can play. And the other interesting aspect is platforms as growth engines, because if you're building on top of evolving tech, then you can get featured by them. For example, if you're using Superbase database, and let's say we have 500,000 users for Supermeme that are supported on Superbase, then there is possibility for them to feature your app as part of their growth strategy as well, right? Hey, we built Superbase and see that AI meme generator is running on our platform. So basically, you build on top of evolving tech, and evolving tech which is um, companies that have raised millions of dollars from VCs, etc. They feature you as their you know prominent startups that are building on their platforms, etc. And first of all, why is it hard to build an AI SaaS? As a I would say, as a non full stack developer, because if you're a full stack developer from day one, then it's a no brainer. But if you're not, there are some constraints, or rather, I would say there are things that you need to master before you can fully take off. And I've listed these here so that it's comprehensive enough, so that you know what are the things that you need to master bit by bit. Because if you think about me building AI SaaS, although I started 3 years back, it took quite a bit of time to get to today's level of mastery, because of multiple things. One is, you need to really nail authentication. Authentication means sign in, sign ups, user management, all these things. And I always encourage people to start with just social media logins, and also with just Google logins, because there's a lot of abuse with just email and email sign up or OTP sign up, etc. So that people create multiple emails or temporary emails, and they abuse the system a lot. So just having Google logins solves that a lot. So you need to spend enough time on the authentication side to understand what is user signups and logout, user management. It takes little bit of time. You need to spend time on that. Similarly, on database and storage, now you just have a website, but you need to store some data, show the data, and store some files, and retrieve those files, etc. So again, part two, once you have the authentication problem solved, is how do you manage user data? That is, so you need to understand on a high level and play around with tools to get this. So databases, either SQL based databases like Superbase, or NoSQL based databases like MongoDB, etc. That's second part of the problem. Third part is Payments. You have an app, people are signing up, running, you have metrics because you have the data stored, but how do you make money? Through payments. Now, Stripe is the biggest platform out there. I would encourage you to start with that. Stripe subscription. So either it is one-time subscriptions or just like our Netflix or Disney Hotstar or any other subscription, month-on-month subscriptions, multiple plans, cancellations, refund, and fraud. Why I'm mentioning this is that everything is a small river in itself that you need to master, because subscriptions is not about just integrating Stripe. It is about understanding what are multiple payment plans, what are, how do you uh, handle cancellations, refund, or fraud, things like that. It does take a little bit of time to master each and individual pieces. And the fourth thing is API, because if you're building an AI SaaS, it is inevitably you need to work with APIs, because either it is text or images, you pass in something, you generate something and return that back. So again, just putting out an API is not the biggest deal, but how do you make the APIs, authenticated? That means not anyone on the internet who has that URL can call. When they call, you get the request information and see whether that user exists in your databases. If he or she is a validated user, that is one. Secondly, especially with AI SaaS and generative AI APIs, you also need to take care of rate limiting, because if people sign up and they just run 1,000 runs in the first 1 hour, maybe you get a $500 bill because you're using GPT-4. It's not what you should uh, give the user to do, right? So you need to have, let's say, hourly or daily rate limits, or however you put it, so that people don't abuse the system. Then the other thing is rate limit switching. Just like unlimited internet, if people say unlimited internet, for the first 20 GB you have this much Mbps, then after that it goes into this kbps plan where you can use infinitely. Similarly, think about whether your SaaS app needs such plan, where for the first uh, 50 runs in an hour you run it on GPT-4, and for the rest of the things you run it on GPT 3.5, etc. So you need to think about all these. How do you provide unlimited usage but switch the usage after a certain usage volume to a different model, cheaper model, etc. And also fallback, because APIs, uh, let's say if you integrated OpenAI and it's not working at the moment, can you fall back to Anthropic? Can you fall back to Google's API, generative AI API? Similarly, you need to have fallback system. And the last one is scalability and performance optimization, because once you hit scale and once there is minimum, you're past the stage where there is product market fit, where there are some users and paying users, etc. You also need to think about how to scale and optimize for performance. That is looking into each platform's database and storage limits, as well as costs, if you need to migrate to a different provider, if you need to move your data to a different provider, things like that, etc. And how do you win as a bootstrapped small team or as a solopreneur with no employees? um, First of all, picking the right game that you want to play. If I am playing cricket or football, inherently the game is designed as a 11 player game or something like that, where I need coordination with 11 players to be able to win the match. But choosing a solopreneur or choosing a bootstrapped small micro SaaS is essentially picking the game that is right for you. That is picking badminton or tennis, where you are where the game at max gets to one people or two people if you're playing doubles. That means you need to compete and choose ideas like that, where um, try to pick ideas where there is not much R&D, research and development, and no custom model training that is necessary. essentially pick one problem in a domain and try to solve it very well and deliver value by combining existing AI tech. That is, you if you combine text generation with image generation with voice, then you build a layer that is combination of all these, right? So similarly, the biggest thing is picking the right sport to play and picking the right domain where you can operate and deliver value by combining multiple existing AI APIs or technologies, not trying to uh, bank on new user behavior or trying to bank on a new potential R&D that may be successful. Maybe that's not the right way to operate as a solopreneur or bootstrapped small team. Second is B2B versus B2C. B2B has long sales cycles. That means it takes longer to win the customer uh, and win the customer's trust as well. But at the same time, if something is harder to get, it is harder to lose. There is less competition as well because not many people are willing to go through that 6 months of demo before you get the first approval for pay. But usually, as a solopreneur, I uh, choose to operate as B2C because you don't need to worry about the hassle of doing demos, hassle of going through long sales cycle with corporate teams. Usually, my mantra for solopreneur SaaS is operate in B2C in one domain and put a pricing plan between $10 to $30. That is perfect for you because the amount also doesn't shouldn't be too huge that you get a lot of customer support and people whining about your product. If it's a $10-15 product, if they don't find value, they just cancel, and they are okay to wait for the next month to get the refund. But if you're charging $1,000, probably they expect faster refunds, on call 24/7 on call, things like that, etc. So as a solopreneur, I give this suggestion to operate in B2C with a $10 to $30 price tag. And the third is basically AI and tech play. Like I mentioned, tools like ChatGPT and Cursor.so, now you can create content and code at a scale that is not possible before, at a speed that is not possible before. I will invalidate my own statements that I made 2 years back. I would say no code tools are faster to build. I used to say that no code tools are faster to build as opposed to coding where it takes long time. So I was a big advocate of no code tools in building the apps when you start. But today with ChatGPT and Cursor, I don't think the same way because even it is an extremely complex feature where previously I used to think about the logic, parameters, everything, and it takes 1 week to finally master it. Now I just give the input instructions and my code base with longer context length, like what ChatGPT, Anthropic has, even 128K context length. You can give pretty much your whole code base or the biggest top 5-6 files, even 1,000 lines, and ask it to add a feature. Then it will tell you exactly which change needs to happen in which file, and it is blazing fast that now my 1 week's time is cut down to probably 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating this. And I'm not even a full stack developer. It suggests, I try it out, and it works like magic. Sometimes it blows my mind. I push it to production, and customer is happy and I am happy. So today, as of 2024, you are operating on a different kind of exoskeleton, even just being a coder yourself, and you don't need to be a coder who is a full stack developer even. So you use AI as an exoskeleton to do heavy lifting in both content, code, anything. And that is the biggest weapon that you have as a solopreneur today to win and compete against even $1 million startups, because there is always execution latency with any company. You want a certain feature to be done, product manager needs to communicate with the developers need to build it, then there is a testing team that does the testing, and it's approved, then the product manager will approve and push it to production. This latency itself is the thing that slows down even one feature release. Now with AI and tools like that I mentioned, this latency that happens 1 week or 2 weeks in a traditional company could be a 1 hour job for you as a solopreneur. So you can actually compete with $1 million companies because within your brain there is no latency. The product manager, the developer, the tester, everything is you, and you push it to production in the next 1 hour. And one main thing is that as a solopreneur, I encourage people to build personal brand online, because products fail all the time. But what doesn't fail is the distribution that you have created and the trust you have created, online or offline. And people remember your perseverance, and that is carried over to any product that you build. And build in public, not many people understand, but I put it this way: just tell the audience what you're going to build, talk about it in a post, then you go and build it. Now you talk about the challenges that you encountered while building it. Then when you launch, tell about tell about the thing that it is live and anyone can try out. This simply is building in public, where you share your journey from idea to execution, challenges encountered, being even open, vulnerable about it. If you fail to build it, that's okay as well, but there's always something to learn from live actions. No matter whether you failed or succeeded, from your live action in this world, someone else can learn. Whether that learning is not to do that or to do that is up to them, but anyone who is experimenting out there in the world live has something to share. That's what I would say. And if you're not building a startup, build an audience. I mean, this is one of my quote that I like: if you're not building a startup, build an audience online. If you're building a startup, build an audience online twice as hard. Let's move faster because we have 8 minutes to the hour end, but we have few more slides, so don't worry, just few more slides. And a lot of people ask me, if you were Ramsri, this is great. Anyone can anyone can weave a great story post success. That means people can get success and then you write a beautiful backstory saying that your journey is amazing, etc. But if you are starting today, Ramsey, how would you build an AI SaaS product? Because I try to ask this because I want to validate that whatever journey that I've had is not pure success, not just for anybody else, just for myself. Because I believe that if I cannot replicate this again, the first one, the journey is luck. So here's how I look at it: always pick on emerging AI trends, whether it is in image generation, text generation, vector databases. Now identify gaps in domains. When I mean domains, it could be edtech, fintech, medtech, medical, or real estate, anything. Identify gaps in the domains that could be filled with this evolving AI tech. And here are two minimalistic landing pages that I created for two new ideas. And when I mean new, I would say absolutely, like, nothing is absolutely new. Maybe some other people have thought about it. But if I didn't have Questgen today, I didn't have Supermeme today, and I didn't have any product today, these would be the products that I would probably work on or ideate and validate on. So whenever an AI SaaS idea strikes me, I just try to put it in one slide. This is the landing page website. That means when someone, let's say, these two are hypothetical startups, StorySketch.ai. They don't really exist in the world. I just made them up. So if someone goes to StorySketch.ai, I want this to be the first landing page screen. And whether this messaging is clear, etc., that is what I think about. So consistent illustrations for your stories, YouTube videos, games, and more. There are three things here. One is the title, perfect and apt title for this idea. Then the message, that is the copy, landing page copy, consistent illustrations for your stories. That is an unmet need as of today, or it is an evolving need. That means startups are trying to solve it, but they have not fully solved it. So if I were ideal today, I would probably work on this idea. Now, the biggest thing is that here's where I would go into customer persona. Now, with consistent illustrations, you can enable story writers, or you can enable YouTube creators, or you can go to gaming domain and give this tool. Now, this is where customer persona is defined, and I, as a bootstrapper, try to see which fits me well, which target audience. For example, since I'm a creator anyways, probably if I create a tool for YouTube videos, it might be easy for me to execute as a solo bootstrapper. Whereas the same thing could be done for games, but it might be harder because I need to start talk with gaming companies, get on calls, do demos, and then go through that sales cycle and build a tool for them. And probably they don't trust me as an individual, right? So this is where you need to define customer persona and choose actively with heart, mind, and thought where you need to operate. Let's think about another idea, fillanything.ai. Again, for example, if I'm running a startup, I am asked to fill Y Combinator application, startup application. I'm applying for another startup accelerator. It asks me 100 questions. Can I just give all my information as a founder, as well as my startup information? And there is an AI that is built on vector database to do retrieval. And for every question that is on the online form, maybe AI will generate uh, automatically the data that needs to be filled. I just click insert content. So it might be a Chrome application that I can build, etc. So provide your data once and effortlessly autofill any online form, whether it's a questionnaire for your startup or a job application. AI generated submissions every time. This is how I envision the landing page to look when I think about this idea, fill anything .ai. Again, this is a completely hypothetical idea. Like I mentioned, I would probably validate and see who will pay for this, how I can execute this if I was ideal as of today. Then second thing is, one of the main things that I say is that generative AI apps need generative AI UI UX, because it's not the same anymore to think about building a traditional SaaS. For example, if I give this text on the left and click on submit button, it will take 2 or 3 minutes for GPT-4 Turbo to generate all the questions, let's say 20 MCQs like this, and then show. That is one UI. But user can't wait till that point. Just like how text is streamed, probably you can stream even components, that is full card components with the question, with the right answer and everything. So each question card is streamed bit by bit. So this card comes up in the first 10 seconds, then the next question comes in 15 seconds. So that's a much better UI UX. So streaming components is one. I have it live on Questgen.ai. And the second thing is ground truth view for LLM generation. The biggest problem with LLMs is hallucination. I generate this, let's say, MCQ from this text, but can you show me the grounding where this text is actually taken from and this MCQ is generated? That's where this grounding truth, where I highlight the text that it came. Now, even if you give 100,000 words here, the area where this is highlighted will scroll into view when you click on the MCQ on the right. That means if you click on the first question, that comes into view. If you click on fifth question, then the scroll bar automatically scrolls and comes to that point and highlights this green section on which that MCQ is based. So I'll think about even adapting technology to your generative AI SaaS. I'm just giving you two ideas. And another biggest thing that I always ask for myself is, what new business use case can this new AI tech unlock that wasn't possible or complex before? If you say, there are many apps like this where you can give an old dilapidated house, old house, interior or exterior, and it will automatically generate how the remodeled version will be. Now the thing is that it doesn't matter whether you had the same idea in 2010. It matters in 2023 because there is a model called as control net that came out, which will take this input image, then generate only the outlines, that is this top outlines of window and everything. Then it will automatically fill in uh, a beautiful new house, how it would look with that outline. So always think about, if there is any new AI tech, can this unlock a business use case that wasn't possible before or complex before? And you can go and try out this model on segment.com, the company that I work for. They open source sorry, they provide APIs for cutting edge AI models, generative AI image models. And again, one another idea was OpenAI's Whisper, which is, now it can take any of the 100 languages, whether it is Hindi, Tamil, Spanish, etc., and automatically generate English subtitles. Again, previously, if you're subtitling videos, you had to first convert it from, let's say, Hindi to Hindi subtitles, then use as translation, then you get English subtitles. But there is an AI model, OpenAI's Whisper, that is trained to directly take in audio in any of the 100 languages and directly generate English subtitles. So now this startup is possible today, cheaply, efficiently. Again, you need to ask the question, what new business use case can this new AI tech unlock that wasn't possible or complex before? This adding English subtitles to any language video was complex before. With OpenAI's Whisper, it was made easier. And that's where you need to think about this new AI tech and implement it into a product. Now, another thing that I always suggest is that you should have your main website, let's say Questgen.ai, on no code landing pager, and then your main app, that could be app.question.ai or dashboard.question.ai, completely on code. So this is built with Vercel, Next.js, etc., and this is built completely on no code. So any freelancer or anyone can go and do edits to this and work on SEO independently from the coding platform. We are coming to the end of the section. Just give me 1 minute. We just have two more slides. Uh, Now, the biggest thing is, you need to understand this thing about AI SaaS, which is ranking on Google is relatively easier. Don't take me wrong when I mean easier, but if someone searches for meme generator, you have this, image flip, and you get a lot more. And it is extremely hard for us to, as a solopreneur, to beat these age old companies that have been in existence, popular on the internet. It is extremely hard for us to beat. Just when you add AI before it, AI meme generator, now Supermeme.ai comes at the top. The main thing is that, as an AI, AI SaaS solopreneur, your goal is to adapt to this changing user behavior, where people will search for, instead of quiz generator, they will search for AI quiz generator. And now your company comes on the top, rather than other companies that are age old, which you cannot beat in 1-2 years unless you invest heavily on content. Just when you add the word AI, you are tapping into this trend of users adapting and customers behavior which is changing, that they understand now this could be possible with AI. So they'll search with AI quiz generator or AI meme generator. Now you can compete and get onto the top page, top 1, 2, 3 search results with your AI app. With this, we come to the end of the session. You can find me Ramsri_Goutham on Twitter. I'll stop sharing and get back to questions. Sorry for the long talk,
Yeah.
but glad that we could cover. We'll take questions from here. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. It was a really interesting talk and with all the practical demonstrations. So I'll quickly move on to questions from YouTube. We have Sanjay Murmu asking, he has two questions. First one is how to speed up inference time of open source LLM, and second is how to input large text in open source LLM.
Hmm. Okay. So the first question, how to speed up open source LLMs? I would say it's more of a technical challenge, because you have both quantization and you can do R&D. That is uh, two ways. One is you distill the model yourself and speed it up, or you work with compute resources that are not traditional GPUs, but rather use faster compute. So there are libraries catered to doing faster computations of transform models. There are dedicated hardware companies that are working on this. So my suggestion would be to, instead of you doing R&D, trying to partner with them, because they are incentivized to work with you and help you grow, and your goal should be focused on business use case. So you work with them, better their technology while being a customer for them. That's how I would advise. And the second question was, what was it?
How to input large text in open
Yeah.
source LLM.
I think models are constrained by their input text. For example, um, Phi 2 model from Microsoft that came out very recently was MIT licensed as of today or yesterday, which has just 2048 token length, but it's a very small model that you can host on very low compute resources, even on 1 GB with 1 GB RAM with quantization, etc. Um, I think the biggest thing is, which I also use, is chunking. Either you can write your own chunker algorithm to take, let's say, 100,000 words and split it into, let's say, 2,000 words each, and then do generation, which is what I do on Question as well, because there are multiple problems. If you input, let's say, 100,000 words directly, one, the LLM takes a lot of time to read all of this content and start generation. Two, with so much context, the output is also not perfect, because there are a lot of research. There's a lot of research that shows that the performance degrades significantly after you get to 16K token length, 32K token length, etc. So instead, I would advise, you can have an open source LLM that takes probably 4096 tokens, or even smaller or bigger, like Llama, slightly better 32K, etc., and rely on chunking. You can use your own chunking algorithm, or tools like LangChain provide easy chunking algorithm to chunk text into pieces. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Next question we have from Azhar, sir. He's asking, when you say to start with product that is already paid for, how do you compare the efficacy with respect to whatever is provided manually, and how do you do the pricing?
Good question. So pricing, first I'll answer the pricing part. I think if you are a B2C SaaS, you, as a generative AI company, there is a benchmark for you. That is, chat GPT is at $20. So what you offer, if it's built on top of that, or it's leveraging that or other thing, you should price lower. Or if you deliver more value through the domain and other plugins, etc., you should charge more. But there is a benchmark of $20 per month that you need to keep in mind. That's your reference ballpark, and you need to center around that. And like I mentioned, B2C SaaS, this is how I look at it. There should be an affordable plan, which is either $10 or $15. That's a must. Then there can be a slightly better version that is at $35 or $30, and you can have another plan if you want three plans at $50, etc. But the short answer, try to price between $10 to $15 or $10 to $20. Let's in an ideal sense have a pricing plan there. And there is one crucial aspect to remember: the prices will be amortized over time with better tech. That means today when GPT-4 Turbo is released, the pricing is higher. But in 6 months down the line, either open source AI or GPT-4 pricing will be reduced by 5x or 10x. That's a given. Uh, Seeing how the progress in OpenAI is happening. I mean, how the progress is happening in the generative AI domain. So as long as you are profitable, I advise people that take into take into consideration that the prices will be amortized over time. I mean, ideally reduce 2x, 5x, 10x even, 6 months or 1 year down the line. So as long as you are profitable, try to deliver more value and acquire customers. um, and the first part of the question, what was it? Sorry for missing it out again.
Yes, sir. So the first part was when, like, how do you compare the efficacy with respect to whatever is provided manually? The Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say that there are two ways to go about it. One is you can think of it as a replacement, but AI at its current state cannot replace humans, let's say, for any of the use cases. Then you need to understand the business chain of how things happen. For example, even providing an efficient tool, for example, let's take Questgen.ai. By providing an authoring tool, I'm not replacing a human quiz creator, but I am replacing one important value chain, which is, if I was a small startup, previously I used to hire 5 people outside to do quiz creation. Now with this authoring tool, I can have an in-house team of 1 or 2 people, or even if I'm a small business owner, I can do it myself. That means I can spend 1 hour and use this enhancement tool and create quizzes myself. Since I could not do it in 1 hour previously, I used to outsource it to 5 people. Now the AI here is not replacing the quality of humans, but it's providing an authoring tool so that you cut the chain. Now you can do it in-house by yourself, spending some little extra time. So when I mean efficacy, always think about whether that value chain, at least the chain of iterations, could be cut down by your tool. And I gave an example, right? To cut down the tool, in 2020 I had to collect data sets and train with T5 transformer model, and then only some value was delivered. But you could see through and anticipate that LLMs will take off, get better, so that you don't need this custom training. So whenever you are thinking about efficacy, there should be a minimum threshold efficacy that model should deliver, either acting as an enhancement tool to existing people to cut down time or cut down value chain. And also the progress in that AI tech should be aligned such that the value delivered, the quality will increase 10x, 5x or 10x in 2 to 3 years down the line. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next question is on, do you feel using third-party APIs is the best way forward in contrast to building own models?
I absolutely am a firm believer that if you are a solopreneur, or a small team, you should rely on third party APIs than you yourself building the models. But here's a catch. One is, whenever you are using third party APIs, you need to have fallback. That means you need to use multiple third party APIs. For example, I use OpenAI, Microsoft Azure's OpenAI, Anthropic Claude A, and to some level Mistral from another another company. So there are four fallbacks that even if one fails, the other succeeds. Second is working with startups where their core competency is providing that API and your core competency is building that model. What that simply means is this. For example, if you take segment.com, the company that I freelance with, you can host your own stable diffusion API, but there are problems. If you need to have a dedicated GPU, you need to spend $300 $400. You need to maintain the infrastructure, and probably you are not the best person to do optimization to get the inference latency from 10 seconds to 1 seconds. All these things are primary focus of concern to some other startup. They can execute it well with resources. You as a developer can leverage their APIs where you are adding value because you are being a live customer for them. So they are incentivized to work with you and deliver value with to you, host those models, improve on inference latency, maintain infra, all these things. Whereas you as a consumer, you are giving feedback for them, how customers are finding this model, whether the latency is good, etc. So it's a two-way street where I always encourage. So instead of trying to use Microsoft Azure's API, where if that API latency is not good, no one will respond to me with, and even if someone responds, they will have a generic answer. I always love to work with early stage startup founders. One, I can have a direct relation. Two, they will execute it at much faster pace. They can find, let's say, if there are new GPUs that came out that can do this inference 10x, they are the first ones on board with their own funding. They'll try it out, they'll cut down the inference latency. So it's a two-way street for me where the value is delivered on both ends instead of me managing infra optimization, speed, and all these things. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. We have a few more questions. I'll try to maybe go by them a little quickly. So first is how to choose. Okay, did we cover this? I'm sorry. We have a question from Prabhav Sharma. I'm building a vertical B2B SaaS, but I have many competitors. Should I shift to horizontal SaaS?
Um, so, I mean, I encourage vertical B2B SaaS because when you are in horizontal SaaS, there is a risk that is tomorrow there might be a model, there might be a feature release from a company, big company like Google, etc., and they can completely take away your revenue or disrupt you. So I always encourage people to build vertical SaaS. Now, when you are in the vertical B2B SaaS, um, there are few constraints. One, if you're operating in B2B, you cannot rely on just social media posts, virality, or even SEO to get B2B users. You should have someone to open the doors for you to have a conversation with these companies. It could be your domain expertise, or your siblings or father or someone works in the domain, or you have a co-founder who is in the domain and expertise in the domain. All these things to be there should be there. Third thing is competition, right? So this is how I look at it. You should compete with tech, especially as a technologist. I believe that I am building, let's say, question generator AI. There are other companies who are building it. and it is a B2C SaaS in a vertical edtech, right? I am quite confident that there is no one who will match me to the speed of execution as well as the technology of execution. What that means is, if Vercel or someone released a streaming component API, I know I can quickly integrate that and build on top of that. So there will be no other company who can be faster than me. And similarly, um, all the features that you build, for example, if LangChain introduced some other thing, like OpenAI introduced agents, then I know that I am the best person to build agents to edtech in the way users are using it in my app. So I'm very confident that whatever technology that's coming up, whether it is LangChain releasing a new feature, OpenAI releasing agents, or Vercel releasing streaming components, etc., I know that I am the best person to bring that to B2B in my vertical. Now, my competitors can execute at the same level, but beyond a minimum threshold of MVP where my startup is known, I'm also heavily into tech play. That's why I talked about building generative AI interfaces for generative AI companies. And I'll just take one quick second to demo something that I released so that you get an idea how you can execute at the level other people can't. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see. Yeah.
Yeah. For example, let's think about this. You can see on the right side quizzes will be generated. You can see the question is generated, correct answer is generated. After everything is generated, it is randomized. You can see that question, correct answer, all these things are generated and randomized. And I am pretty confident that no other company in the world, whether it is $1 million company, can execute faster than me and at this level. So right now, once you get into the technology play, you can be quite confident that you can compete with other companies that are out there. And for whoever asked the question, no matter whether they are competitors, believe and execute on a technological play that it will blow users mind. Basically, you should state of the art and the features in your vertical should match. That's the simplest thing. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Just two more questions we have. Is it compulsory to build in trends like LLM, or can I disrupt with older SaaS? Can I disrupt older SaaS with generative AI and Copilot features?
So um, when I mean LLMs, it's not just LLMs. That means LLMs are, let's say, generative text, and there are stable diffusion models. Then there are text to speech models or speech to text models. All these AI models. My suggestion with AI SaaS in particular is, um, you should definitely build on these generative uh, tools that are coming up and state of the art. Otherwise, one is, if you're building a traditional SaaS which is solving a problem where AI is not the enhancer, then the uh, I would say then the 10x efforts of being an AI SaaS don't come into play. Like I mentioned, right? Um, Even if you search for AI quiz generator, now we are at the top, but I can never be at the top with just quiz generator. So all these effects of influencers randomly mentioning your AI SaaS, SEO tailored to your AI SaaS, all, you won't latch on to the growth that is happening in the domain of generative AI. And I strongly advise people to build in generative AI state of the art tech, because apart from your execution, you are also riding the wave. And if your if your surfboard is not aligned to the right one, maybe you need to work harder to ride the wave, right? So better align your surfboard to the waves so that you can also ride the waves to others, uh, like others. And I will say one thing, that a lot of people think that my competitor is doing well, or they are riding the wave better than us, etc. I have a very simple question. It doesn't matter. Like right now, my competitor to Question, who started along with me, is probably at 5x MRR. But that doesn't bother me a bit. They started later than me, and they most likely copied some SEO features, because I can see, but I'm not even offended. What matters is that I make 3 or 4 lakhs from that SaaS. I'm someone living in India making 3 lakhs with that part-time SaaS. Probably 50,000 or 1 lakh is operations costs, and I make 2 lakhs from it profit. So that's the only thing that matters. A lot of people are worried about other things, but at the end of the day, in this 8 billion people, just think about where you stand from your perspective. That's it. And you don't, and a lot of people's happiness is lost by thinking that other people are riding waves better than them, or things like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer, sir. And we have one last question. If you want to build a question generation using open source LLM, what will be your suggestion? I think in terms of how much data.
I think data wise, um, now you can do just supervised fine tuning. So probably even 5,000 or 10,000 question and answers are good enough for you to create that on top of open source LLMs, be it uh, I would say Mistral or Llama. I would say if I were building on top of open source, I would pick Llama 2 or Mistral, and do supervised fine tuning with 500 or 5,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 high quality samples, instruction samples. And since these models are trained on quite a lot of data, you don't need to do from scratch training. Only the last layer, if you can do SFT, instruction fine tuning, to generate quizzes, that's perfect. That's how I would go about it if I were doing it today. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I think that brings us to the end of all the questions. We had quite a few questions, but it was such an engaging session and so much relevant in today's world. With that, if none of the others members have any more questions, I think we can wrap up this session. Once again, thank you so much, Ramsri sir, and for all the viewers who have been watching on YouTube and on Google Meet. We thank you and hope to see you again in a future I session.
Thanks a lot for tuning in and spending time to hear through my session. Pardon me, I'm a little bit under the weather, so my throat and voice is a little bit uh, different from normal. But thanks for being with me.
Thank you, sir. It was absolutely great. We couldn't make out. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think with that, we can end the live stream.
Yeah, sure. Let me check.